What's up, everybody? It's DC and Lake.
What's up, y'all?
Here for episode 7 of No Huddle Hoops. And today we're going to talk about the NFL still having turf fields as Tyreek Hill and Malik Neighbors got injured this past weekend and why it's not good for the league. In the NBA, we're going to talk about Johnathan Kuminga signing a 2-year, $48 million deal. The NBA preseason is starting tomorrow.
76ers versus the New York Knicks.
Yeah, we'll see some games there. And for college football, we're going to talk about some of the big games from last week. LSU versus Ole Miss, Alabama versus Georgia. Not quite living up to the hype that we thought it was going to live to. And Oregon, Penn State also. But first up, we're going to get into the turf situation in the NFL. So, Lake, what are your feelings on turf, and what do you think the NFL could do?
Well, as a former football player who played on a turf field during practice, I know firsthand that turf is not a very valid option for a football player. I think it's bad. I think it makes things like players, it makes them very injury prone. We saw Malik Neighbors playing on brand new turf tear his ACL. Tyreek Hill looking like a career-ending injury there.
It didn't look good.
It did not look good.
But I'm going to interrupt you for a second. This is the same turf field Malik Neighbors got hurt on, the same one Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles 2 years ago.
I know, man.
Yeah.
We have to go back to grass. Grass, although doesn't exhibit the same benefits that turf field does, it makes the players a little bit slower. If it's going to keep your players healthy in the long run, you've got to go back to grass. I played on grass and turf. I know grass is better. My only football-related injury was on turf. My only football-related injury was on turf. And I've never had a football injury on grass, so I know from a first-hand account that turf is not good for players who want to have these prolonged careers.
It's not. I mean, and the NFL has to take these steps to protect their players if they want these players to continue playing at a high level. And if they can't do that, you're going to get so many injuries. And the NFL needs to invest more money in spending on grass instead of being cheap and buying these turf fields. But, it is what it is. But, yeah.
Let's go ahead and move into some NBA news. A summer-long contract holdout with Warriors star Johnathan Kuminga has finally come to an end as he signs a 2-year player option on a $48 million deal that has been structured for the contract to be ripped up after the first year. That means Johnathan Kuminga will be able to renegotiate with the Warriors or pick a different team if that team option is not accepted. We know Johnathan Kuminga has had some very rough playing time with the Warriors. He's been very upset about his PT. He wants to go into a better situation as to where he can play more. So, if you're asking me, Johnathan Kuminga, he's due. He's been due. I always thought he was going to be a great player. With a bunch of Warriors coming to New Orleans recently, I actually thought he was going to sign with us as well. But since the Warriors sort of had him as a restricted free agent, he couldn't just go anywhere he chose to.
Right.
But now that he's on this 2-year team option that can be, rearranged, reoriented, and renegotiated after the season's over, we're going to see what the future is for Kuminga as far as his career is in the NBA. What do you have to say about that as a Warriors fan?
As a Warriors fan, I mean, I'm not angry. I think Kuminga has a lot of beef with Steve Kerr. I mean, why wasn't he played that much in the playoffs? I kind of still question that a lot. I think they have beef, and they just don't want to admit it. But he's a solid role player, but it's just sad that he won't get that PT because, you have all these veterans above you. But hopefully once these guys retire or they leave the league, he'll get some playing time. But I just don't see that being this year. There's just so much stuff going on within the Warriors. They don't really have a bench. Kuminga needs to step up and be a high-level player because I think he can. He just has to believe in himself. And it's going to take Steve Kerr to let him play up to the highest level.
At the end of the day, Steve Kerr ended James Wiseman's career too. For those of you that don't know, James Wiseman was the number 2 pick in the 2020 draft, a pick that the Warriors never needed, as the only reason that they were down there at the number 2 pick was because Steph Curry got a hand injury. So when James Wiseman came into this system that Steve Kerr runs that he wasn't familiar with, and James Wiseman was also coming off of a collegiate injury at Memphis, it sort of messed him up very badly. He never could really.
He really never he never developed the way we thought he was going to develop, and I was disappointed because I was very high on him coming out of Memphis.
I was too. I genuinely thought he was going to be the best player out of that draft class. He looked like the most NBA ready big man that you could take. The Warriors needed the big guy. He was there. I figured, hey, James Wiseman's got to get for the Warriors, and I thought he was going to be, a great player in this league. But now he's been bouncing around. He's
wasn't developed the right way.
He just wasn't. He's on the Indiana Pacers now. Tore his ACL last season. Injuries have derailed a very promising, what could have been career. But at the end of the day, Steve Kerr managing these younger players has not been great.
He doesn't know how to manage young talent at all.
He just doesn't. I know a lot of people who are very unhappy with Brandon Podziemski's playoff performance.
Oh,
I
was
think
horrible.
with some better, coaching there from Kerr, that could always turn around. But as far as the Warriors are right now, it's looking pretty bleak. They could be great. They could be bad. I have them personally missing the playoffs. I do think Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry could get you to the playoffs, but we know Jimmy Butler's sweet spots in the playoffs. His regular season performances don't really match up to his playoff performances, and the Heat finishing lower in the East was sort of a reflection of that.
Yeah, correct.
But the NBA preseason also starts tomorrow. As a avid NBA fan who has been watching the NBA since 2013,
I'm excited. The NBA season's right around the corner. Good to see some new faces on some new teams. So it should be pretty exciting.
Dylan Harper, man, all these new draftees. This was a loaded draft class.
Mavs are loaded.
I am very excited to see what's going to go on in this preseason. Praying no players get hurt during this preseason. I hope my Pelicans do great. I think we're going to be the 7th seed in the Western Conference, so long as we are not injured, so long as our coach, Willie Green, can, sort of finally tap in to this good roster that we've got. Willie Green has sort of been unfortunately given these great rosters, but
Zion, I will say Zion looks really good.
He looks great in physical condition, but it's sort of in a cycle. Every season he comes back in great physical condition. He gets injured,
gets hurt,
and he gets fat again,
and
he catches some sort of case with somebody, and then it all reloops back into the upcoming season. But I love the NBA. I love basketball. It's been my favorite sport since I was a little baby. That's my area of expertise. I want to talk about basketball when I get older. I want to be on TV talking about basketball. It's truly, to me, the greatest sport in the world. But moving on from that, let's go ahead and talk about college football and some of the disappointments that we've had in this big game.
We're going to get into Alabama versus Georgia first. Let's get into that.
Alabama versus Georgia was expected to be game of the year. I expected it to be. Devin expected it to be. But although it ended 24-21 in a close one-possession game,
it wasn't very entertaining at all.
It wasn't very entertaining.
Georgia never led at all.
Georgia did not lead one time in the game. And to cap it off, the player who leapt onto the big dog pile after the whistle was blown, plays over, that cost Georgia the game. He needs to be cut. Pretty obvious there. I don't know what goes through your mind when you think about doing stuff like that, but overall, that was not the game I was expecting. I was expecting high scoring. I was expecting, back and forth.
No defense. No, pretty much no defense.
Pretty much, yeah. No defense like it was last year, but this game, all defense.
Alabama
wins it by a field goal. I wasn't
we both had Alabama winning, so it wasn't really a surprise, but it was kind of a surprise that more points weren't scored.
What I was upset about is that I wasn't scared for Alabama that entire time because of how well they controlled the game. Football is more fun to watch when there's suspense. Yeah. There was no suspense in this game. I'm sure most people picked Georgia to win. I mean, Alabama's kind of had a rough start to the season, with the Florida State loss.
I still think that was kind of fluky.
You could say Florida State did lose to Virginia Tech.
That's their defense
to the wide
struggle.
receiver who was stampeded after the game ended. How about LSU Ole Miss? How about some LSU woes and the drop in the AP 25 ranking?
I'm gonna get into that. This loss proves that LSU was overrated. The Clemson game, they're still living off the hype of that, and this team is not a top 4 team at all.
Really?
They're not. The Clemson's not good. They're 1-3. And they might be 7-5 if they're lucky. Maybe 6-6. They're not a really good team this year. But I will say Garrett Nussmeier, and I'm gonna say this to you, and I'm gonna say this to everybody. He is not the answer. I don't care if he's hurt. He should have been the bigger person and sat out against Louisiana Tech, against Southeast Louisiana 2 weeks ago. He should have sat out if he was this hurt. He did not play well. And granted, the offensive line play wasn't the greatest, and I get that. There was no running game. But personally, I just think he's just not the same quarterback. And I think we need to start having conversations about Michael Van Buren Jr. starting, get him some experience. He started last season at Mississippi State because Nussmeier ain't it. I mean, he's a fifth-year senior, and he still hasn't figured it out. He refuses to run. He makes very bad decisions. I mean, the offensive play calling isn't the greatest either, but this was a game that LSU was decent enough to win. I think LSU, they didn't play great, but they had chances to win. Man, there's still a chance. There's still a chance. The season isn't over, but they got to get it together. Nussmeier needs to get it together. I hope he changes my mind.
I hope so too. This has been a very bad quarterback class as of this far, and with your team, the Saints, being the front runner for the number 1 overall pick next year,
I would just roll with Rattler and get a skill player because it just he didn't. Nussmeier ain't it.
How about the hometown kid who just recently committed to LSU, Peyton Pop Houston?
Yeah.
Right here in Shreveport. What do you think about him and his starting, future with LSU?
Man, I'm happy. He killed our Bird Yellow Jackets 2 weeks ago. Oh my God, that man is crazy. He ran for over 200 yards, threw for 300. He looked great. I think he's a promising quarterback. Hopefully, he'll be able to get in there within the next 2 years. I don't think he'll start as a freshman, but crazier things have happened. I'm very excited. Pop is a very good pocket passer. He can run. He's a dual threat. He can do everything, so I'm real excited for that also.
We're excited that he's repping our city.
Mm-hmm.
We're excited for Pop. Hopefully he does great in his collegiate career. But all right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this week's episode of No Huddle Hoops. Thank you for tuning in with us.
Thank you for tuning in.
We'll see you guys next week with a new face.
Yeah.
So learn what that means in episode 8. See you guys later, man.
All right.